G'day people. So I've got a video today where I'm going to be speaking about something, and lots of my viewers, you guys out there, will look at my videos, I'm sure, and you won't really know what to make of them. In many instances you won't know what to make of me, because you'll see that seemingly I'm a great contradiction. I contradict myself all the time, because I don't ever stand by one belief. I don't have a certain dogma which I'm an adherent to, and so therefore you will always be perplexed about where I'm coming from, because invariably my mind, it doesn't come from the ego to the greatest extent. Naturally, the ego plays a part, whether it's a more or lesser part, in any given scenario. But there's something else that obviously is going on, and this is the higher consciousness. Now, when I speak about things, I speak about them from a whole array of perspectives, and I don't have any adherence or belief to any of them, and I've said this on so many occasions. You see, what people are looking for these days, they're looking for one straight lineage of truth. They're looking for something that's going to take them directly to the truth. They're under the illusion that there is truth, and that's why they call themselves the truth seekers. Well, I mean, these people are so far from being evolved that it really doesn't bear mentioning. And the reason why they're so far from being evolved, because they haven't as yet come to the realization that this existence that we are dwelling within is a paradox. Everything pertains to the paradox. There is no avoiding the paradox in any single region that we care to look at. I discovered the paradox a long time ago, and this is why I have an acceptance that there is no truth. I never ever considered for a moment that there was truth, and you would have never heard me say I'm seeking for the truth. I'm looking for the truth, I found the truth, and this, that and the other. On occasion I may have used the concept of truth, because we have to use concepts, don't we, if we're going to engage with people and describe certain things. Then if somebody told a lie, then that's the obverse to truth. For instance, if you ask somebody what's the directions to such and such a place, and they have been there, and they tell you a direction which doesn't lead you there, then you can say, well, that's not true, that wasn't true, that was a deception. If they tell you the direction and it takes you straight there, then you can say that's a truth. Okay, so in relation to these mundane things, then we can consider that there's a certain truth. But when people are looking for the truth, there is no the truth. There are many, many truths, and there are many, many deceptions. And one person's truth is another person's deception. And so, the state of my mind is that I'm in a constant observation of my physicality. There is something, the awareness, which is constantly observing the ego. As soon as I open my eyes in the morning, it's the awareness that comes to the forefront before the ego. It's not like the ego says, right, I'm going to do this, or I've got to do this, or I'm thinking about this. No. What happens is I open my eyes and I go, I'm this body, I'm laying in bed, and I'm in a certain place on the world and I feel in a certain way, and I'm looking at this. This is what I'm doing all the time. I'm observing this, and I'm observing everything else. And it's kind of like that, I'm not here. Am I really here, I ask myself. What is it about the way I feel that I look about me and people are busy, they're going around and they seem to have a purpose within their lives. And I look at myself and I go, well, I don't have a purpose. I'm just being. Everything I do throughout the day, I'm just being. There's no purpose behind it. Even when I go to the gym, I don't have a purpose per se. I just go because it's something that I've done for most of my life. And it's kind of like, well, I feel good while I'm doing it. And so if you feel good while you're doing it, and then there's a residual effect after, which gives you some sort of feeling of goodness. And then it's a bit like getting enough sleep, and it's a bit like eating well. It's a bit like taking the negative thoughts out of your mind or eliminating the negative thoughts. These things are all positive, aren't they? And so it heightens the sense of being. If you don't eat well, and if you don't exercise, and if you don't have a clear mind, then you can see that that's not very conducive to being in a calm state. You're being, but you're being in an agitated state. Your body is feeling lethargic and tired and maybe ill and all these sort of things. And so I'm in observation of myself throughout every single second of the day. And I look at what I do, and I'm contemplating what I do, and I'm observing the experience that I'm having. That's what I'm doing. The higher self is looking at the experience that this body is having. And my cognizant mind is an acceptance of that. And it's like, you're not real, Aaron. You know, there's a certain reality. This is the paradox. There's a certain reality in this non-reality. And, you know, all your life you've done this and you've done that and now you're doing this. But what is the thing that's always been there and always seems to take precedence over everything else? When you calm down and you start to think, it's just the awareness. And you look at yourself and you go, that's strange, why are you doing that? It's because it gives you pleasure. Oh, okay. Why are you doing that? Is it because it causes you a little bit of stress? Or why aren't you in avoidance of that stress? Do you like stress sometimes? Why is it you like stress sometimes? Because it gives you some sort of heightened feeling within the body, outside of the pure calmness. And then you can slip back into the pure calmness and you can go, ah. So there's all these choices to be had. We can choose how we want to make the body feel. So the higher self can experience all of these variations of the human being. So yesterday I had an experience whereby I'm on the beachfront, and many of you would have seen that it's a very cliffy beachfront, and I'm standing in the sun and I'm watching the seagulls, I'm listening to the waves crashing, and there's a little bit of a cafe with all tables and chairs outside, and there's people drinking coffee and you know, just sitting there calmly, and there's a little bit of a fence which stops people, children. It indicates to them that maybe you shouldn't go any further because it's dangerous. And because there's no fence on this cliff face. And so I very often step over there and I walk to this little promontory and I meditate there and I do videos there. You would have seen videos on lots of occasions. But the reason why I often go to these places is because these out of bounds regions for people invariably are used for the seagulls nesting. And so it's nesting time, and lots of the seagulls have eggs and they have young. And so I've been observing these, and I observe them building the nests, then I observe them when they have eggs, and now I'm observing them when they have their young. And I've noticed that when the seagulls have their eggs and they're sitting on their eggs, they aren't in any level of protection in relation to these eggs. And it's a curious thing. When you go near the nest, they'll just fly away. And they won't come back until you've gone. And then they'll come back and they'll have a little look around and they'll check everything's in order, and then they'll settle down again. But yesterday when I went there, I saw from a distance that there was a young one where previously there was an egg. And so I stepped over this little fence to go and have a look, and I noticed a great difference. The birds, they weren't moving. They were starting to get agitated, and they were being vocal, and they were all talking to each other, and they were standing the ground. And one in particular stood its ground until I was about 6 feet away, and then it finally fled. But they took into the air, and there were 2 pairs on this little rock promontory. So there's like 2 nests and 2 young, or they usually have 2 eggs, and so potentially there's 4 young. So they took to the air, very agitated and very vocal, and they began to dive bomb me. And they're coming so low, and they're coming fast, and they dive down, and what they do is that they hit you with their feet. That's the only defence that they've got, really, is this intimidation. Other than one more thing, which I'm going to state in a minute. And so what I'd noticed is that not only did these 2 pairs of birds, so there's 4 birds that are took to the air, and you know, they're dive bombing me sequentially, but there were others that joined in. And it's kind of like, hey up lads, aggro over here, let's go and help. And so they all joined in this mini fracas. And one of them, when it was dive bombing me, it actually shit on me. And the shit was about as much as a broken egg. A decent sized egg. It came down squawking and splat on my neck and all over my shoulder. I thought, wow, that's a good shot. You know, lots of animals do this. It's kind of, you know, it's one of the limited things that they've got in their defence. They're going to do anything. They can't fly down and bite you because that won't work. And so they do that. And so I lifted my t-shirt and I wiped it all off, and I thought, holy shit. Holy shit. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to be intimidated by you guys. You can't do anything to me. And so I'm going to go a little bit closer, and I'm going to go and look at your young, which was my intention initially. I'm only looking, I'm interested. And so I'm not going to hurt anything, but you see, what took place then within my mind is that there was such a fracas going on with these birds really dive bombing me, and it was like a sketch out of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. And these people over in the cafe, I sensed, obviously they were all looking, and I started to feel the impact of their thoughts. And I thought, hang on, what's going on here? I'm in their territory, and they're very objectional about this. They don't know my intention. They're assuming that my intention is bad, which is a good premise to start from, isn't it, for survival purposes. It's not a good premise just to stand back and go, is it going to be all right with my young one? You know, that isn't going to work, you know, through evolution, is it? And so the birds were taking great objection, and they were all ganging up on me, and I was starting to feel a little bit guilty about what I was doing. And then I was envisioning these people who were evidently looking I never looked over to see if they were looking. I was getting on with my business, and I didn't want to go, okay, yeah, I'm guilty. And so after I got shit on my neck, they would have seen this, because you can see the shit come out of these birds, because, a large amount, and they would have all been thinking, oh, look at him, he's been shit on her. He shouldn't have been disturbing those birds. So there would have been some of them thinking that. And so I was thinking that. And then other ones would have been thinking, what's he doing over there? He's disturbing the birds. He shouldn't be there. He should come back. That's out of bounds. And all these sort of things. And so I started to carry the weight of what the birds were thinking about me, and then what the people were thinking about me. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to be going now to inspect these young ones, because they're going to be squawking to such an extent. Really, there's about 8 birds all around me at this time, and the big birds have got a wingspan of like 4 feet, and they make a lot of noise, and so lots of people would be looking, oh, what's he doing? So I came back over the fence, and I was contemplating how I was feeling about that. And the feelings are quite complex, and I want to speak about this. And so I was feeling guilty. I was feeling somewhat affronted by it. Hang on, you just shit all over me. I wasn't going to do anything, I just wanted to look. I'm a naturalist. I like to observe nature. I've never hurt you, I've helped you in the past, in actual fact. Don't you remember? Because lots of these birds, they have some sort of disease, and you'll find them floating on the waterfront, and then they'll be just on the beach, and they won't be moving, they can't move, and I pick them up, I put them in the shade, and other people put some water there and some food and everything. And so, my intention was good, but I felt slighted because they never appreciated my intention. How could they? Due to their one-sided way of looking at things. I'm getting a little bit closer now to saying what I wanted to say. And so, what I started to think about then was, well, look how Muslims get all very, very agitated and angry within an instant as soon as anybody starts to make inquiry into what they believe in, and to read excerpts from their book where it says that, all Muslims must kill the infidel. There's no grey area about this. It absolutely says that all the infidel should be killed. And all the rest of it, some of you will know some of this stuff. And you see, what I reckon why the great anger comes about, because if, like, you as a Christian and somebody was inspecting the New Testament of what Jesus was saying and what he was doing, then that doesn't ever generate this anger and deep resentment in Christians, does it? Christians go, look at it then. What does it say? Oh, you think it may say this? Well, it doesn't say that. It's depending on the interpretation. It's all good intention, you see. And to be fair, the New Testament isn't like the Old Testament, like where God was like, you follow me, otherwise I'll smite you, and any number of abomination of acts. So the New Testament, you could scrutinise it, and there wouldn't be a single Christian that would take objection and get angry about it. But that isn't the case with Islam. And it seems to me it's because they know deep down inside that it is wrong. And so this is the feeling that I had yesterday. I knew deep down inside that I shouldn't be disturbing these birds because their ignorance is of such a level that they won't understand. They won't be able to comprehend that I don't have an intention to hurt them. They're just going to be going on red alert, defence mode, and it's kill, kill, kill. And this is exactly the same as how most of the Muslims are. And it doesn't seem to... You see, broadly speaking, lots of people will say, oh, it's not all Muslims, it's only this certain section. But look, when anybody says anything about Islam, you get the same response. You'll get deep resentment and anger and hate. It's the most hateful religion on the planet. What other religions generates that level of hate? I don't know any other religion that generates hate. It's a complete contradiction. You know, if you look at Buddhism, if you don't agree with it, if you look at Sikhism, Hinduism, Christianity, then it doesn't generate this that they want to kill you. And so it seems to me that these people have very, very small perspectives of this life. And the tiny perspective is born out of their indoctrination. And so it's like these seagulls. They only have like this reptilian brain, metaphorically speaking, the brain that just gives them information how to survive. They don't have the brain that gives them a level of cognizing. They can't assess the world and philosophize about it, and they can't go, oh, you know, oh, that's debatable. They act in a protectionist way throughout their whole lives. It's all about survival. And so that's their program. And so when you look at Islam, then they've been indoctrinated with a certain program from birth. What do you expect? How can we expect them to apply a rational mind? If you want to sit down and say, well, look, you know, it seems to me that this Mohammed guy is just a marauding, murdering, manipulating domineer. And doesn't seem like a peaceful religion. Oh, Islam's about peace. It's the biggest contradiction on the planet. And so what I'm getting back to now is that, why did I feel a certain guilt about my action in view of the fact that I'd been smited, I've been shit-bombed, I've been aggroed, I've been attacked. I was attacked. I was just going near. That's all I was doing. I was just going near their nesting area, you see? So if you go near an inquiry into Islam, you get the same response. And so that is the relation that I'm drawing. And I felt guilty. Why did I feel guilty? It's because intuitively it's kind of like, look, Aaron, they don't understand your intention. So you should know better. Because if you go there without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to cause a fracas. But I overrode that and I thought, I'm going anyway. I didn't realise the extent what the fracas was going to be, because I'd never done it before. But all of a sudden I found myself in an arena which was really amounting to something potentially hazardous. I could have got angry and I could have swung my bag and I could have, you know, killed one of these birds or broke its wing or something like this. Then I could have like thought, right, I'm going to take your babies, you're attacking me, you're shit-bombing me, I never had this intention. That'd be stupid, wouldn't it? And so therefore then, my level of wisdom said to me that I should recede out of there. And I walked around for the rest of the day with the residue of this shit all down my neck and in my hair, thinking, well, in a way I deserve that. In a way I didn't deserve it because of my intention, but because you didn't realise the level of ignorance of these creatures, then you deserved it. You see? And so then, let's apply this now to Islam. When we want to say something about Islam, we have to know without a shadow of a doubt we're dealing with very ignorant people. They have to be completely ignorant, because if you read that book, it's evil. Of course, how can a religion of love and peace promote killing anybody that isn't in adherence to all those stupid rules, regulations and laws within that book? This isn't anti-Islam. People will be going, oh, I'm gonna report this guy. It's just speaking about the facts that we're dealing with here. And this is what people don't want to do. They don't want to encroach on the facts. And the reason why they don't want to encroach on the facts, because they don't want shit bombing. You see the relationship? Because if you encroach on the facts, then the ignorance of the people who are immersed and controlled, indoctrinated by Islam, they will attack you with everything in their power. And unfortunately, the human being has a lot more tools that it can attack you with. And this is why then they want to kill you. And they do try to kill you. Now, the contradiction comes about. Aaron, the other day you said you admire these Muslims for, standing up for their rights and having a backbone. Yes, I do. That's one facet. And you see, what I was saying is, with the influx of Islam, with the suppression, and with the intimidation, the over-intimidation, what they profess, they can run around the streets and they can say death to America, and they can say death to this person, death to that person. Anybody that writes a little joke about Islam, death, death, death. Do they get arrested? No, they don't. But if you, one person, start saying, well, this Quran is a very, very bad book for humanity, and I think it should be banned. Rah, kill him! And then it's kind of like the police will come and say, what did you say? You said Islam's bad. Right then. Put you in jail. Take you away. So you think, what's going on? What is going on? Please tell me what's going on. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense unless you want complete chaos, ultimately. Because that's where it's leading, isn't it? These people will stop at nothing. Can you imagine when they have 70, 80% of the population, how they're going to be treating the infidel then? I can very easily see that they're going to have the very same perspective as the Nazis. The Nazis wanted to cull certain creeds, gays and invalids and the Jews and this, that and the other, because they didn't agree with their ideology and they were an obstacle in front of their ideology. And so, isn't that going to be the same with Islam? Aren't they going to be saying to well, these people don't agree with our Sharia law, that we should have 5 wives and everybody, should be veiled up and hidden and this and the other, and women can't have free speech and women can't do this and women can't do this, and a man can beat his woman and any number of things. Of course it's going like that. And of course, the intelligence of the world know exactly where it's going. And so you can only conclude one thing, that it's pure chaos that they want. They want everybody completely divided, because this is the whole totalitarian tiptoe that David Icke was talking about. It's the Hegelian problem, reaction, solution thing, that they create the problem and then all the people go, oh, look what's going on, we need police, help and this, that and the other, and then of course they'll come up with a solution. And the solution is going to be radical, and it's going to be very, very suppressive. And so this is where it's going. And so, by way of summary then, this experience I had with the seagulls the other day, and looking at the way in which it made me feel, and then looking at the scenario with the seagulls and asking myself, where have I seen that before? And I go, well, I see it all the time on YouTube in relation to the Muslims. If you go near their nest, they will attack you. They're not asking any questions. If you start to inquire into the validity of that book, they're going to attack you. And they're going to want to kill you. Oh, what am I doing here? Oh, Aaron's inciting hatred, and I'm just stating the facts, aren't I? But let's see if this video is permitted, or whether once again the site will be taken down because the last thing they want is anybody looking at the nest. What is it a nest of? It's a nest of vipers. So I thought that was interesting, to see how I felt, and to see how I ended up feeling guilty because of the amount of people that were going to be thinking, you shouldn't be doing that. These people looking at me from the cafe, look at him disturbing those birds. He should stay away. They've got young ones and this, that and the other. He's disturbing their peace. Ah, he's got shit on. Good, good. He should lose his eyes. And all this sort of thing going on. So when you open your eyes and you look around and you see that this base instinct to attack because they don't understand. They don't understand, they don't have the ability to understand because it isn't within their program. And even if some people, they are wise to it and they know, oh yeah, well, this bit is a bit like off-coloured, but it doesn't really mean that. And I mean, that was in the old days and we don't believe it these days. We're peaceful Muslims and, you know, we don't want to kill anybody, we just want peace. Well, do you want Sharia law? Well, of course we do. I'll rest my case then. So, there you have it, people. Food for thought.